Hello my dear friends, and welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara, and today we're going to be looking at the 12th house. Super excited to be getting into this house. There is so much to say. It's ruled by the sign of Pisces and by the planet Neptune, so it's anything to do with the unseen realm. It is the final sign and house of the zodiac, so it has all of the preceding knowledge of all of the preceding signs encompassed into it. It's anything to do with institutions. It's anything to do with isolation. It is anything to do with, again, creating an illusion of some sort. So this could be through film, this could be through photography, this could be through makeup, this could be through music. A lot of the time I've noticed people who have a lot of Piscean energy in their chart, either Pisces or 12th house, they're going to be interested in the arts of some sort, okay? Basically taking any sort of information that they receive psychically from the other side, the other realm, and portraying it in this physical plane. So the expression of that might look different for different people, but that's really what that is. It's also anything to do with unseen enemies, okay? So it's past life enemies, people that could have been lovers in a past life, in this lifetime come through as hidden enemies. You might not realize that they're your enemies, but this is because of the fact that you have that instant connection with them. We would call this a karmic connection. You recognize them on a soul level. They could have been a lover for whatever reason in a past life. Maybe it was just someone that you knew really well, and in this lifetime they come through as an enemy, hidden, okay? It's covert. It's anything that's unseen. It's anything to do with institutions, okay? So if you have a lot of 12th house energy in your chart, you could have been institutionalized in a past life, okay? It's anything to do with, again, that isolation, spending a lot of time on your own, spending a lot of time in hermit mode. This is really where you're going to get a lot of ideas, okay? Even in this particular lifetime, you're basically going to thrive being on your own. If you have a lot of 12th house, these are the people who basically were anything alternative, okay, in a past life. You could have been, again, the lone wolf. You could have been, you know, the person who traveled, the wanderer, the merchant, all these sorts of things, okay? This is really that 12th house energy. And then in this lifetime, you still carry that energy within you because it's very psychically advanced, okay? So the thing with the 12th house is that they are very, very psychically gifted, okay? They get a lot of ideas. They get a lot of ideas in dream time. They get a lot of ideas, again, through their vision, okay? They have a strong vision, a strong third eye. This is really what we would call it. This is really what the 12th house is all about, okay? It's really all about seeing things, but finding a way to portray them, because what tends to happen with the 12th house is if they don't really get to express themselves creatively in the way that they want to or in the way that they should, they're basically going to resort into addictions, okay? So all the water signs have different addictions that they're basically going to be falling into. With Pisces, a lot of the time, it does tend to be drug addictions, okay? Because they're a sign that loves to be out of their body and they're very used to being out of their body. They're not very grounded, so they have a hard time operating on the earth plane, okay? This is really Pisces. They really have a huge challenge being on the earth plane. They love to get lost in their imagination. They love to get lost, again, in the illusions, but sometimes there's a fine line between, again, illusions and going into delusions, okay? So it's really important, if you have a lot of 12th house energy in your chart, to find some sort of outlets, and a lot of the time it's going to be a creative outlets, okay? So again, film, photography, music, painting, drawing, right? Anything to do with the arts. This is really Piscean, okay? Because again, Pisces is able to channel information through what we would call the crown chakra and basically put it into the physical reality. But what tends to happen is because they struggle so much with the physical reality, they almost, you know, are constantly, again, they're out of their body. So they have a hard time basically picking and finding what it is that they have to do. A lot of the time, people who have a lot of this 12th house energy in their chart, they're going to incarnate with a lot of past life karma to clear. I've seen this in a lot of clients' charts, especially up until their first Saturn return, depending on the degrees, okay? Because we have something called secondary progressions in astrology. So after your first Saturn return, a lot of the planets are going to be moving, not only planets or not only signs, but only also into different houses. So let's say you maybe started out with, you know, 12th house in the 27th degree, right? And when you were born, probably by the time you're 30, you're going to have moved into the first house. So you're going to have a lot of this mental fog that has cleared, okay? Not only that, but you probably would have cleared a lot of past life karma. It depends on you as a person, okay? Because if you have a resistance to it, if you have resistance to clearing this, and if you don't really have the awareness, but we don't really have that happening right now in the current times that we're living in. A lot of people are really catching on quick to everything that's taking place. But let's say you had more resistance to it. I noticed that it tends to, you know, the past life karma tends to go all the way up until the second Saturn return, which is in the 50s. Okay, so what we would look at this also is kind of like awakening. A lot of people talk about Saturn return as something that's negative. I don't see it as negative. I just see it as you growing up, okay, as you maturing, as you developing that strong solar plexus is what we would call it, the identity, the core of who you are. And it's interesting because I've heard from another astrologer that a lot of people who were in Club 27 basically were crossing over right before their Saturn return has taken place, because quote unquote the soul didn't want to grow up, okay, didn't want to become an adult. So you can look at these as pillars. So a lot of the time, you know, if you have a lot of this 12th house energy up until the Saturn return, you're going to be clearing. You're in a lot of karmic situations. Again, you have a lot of those past life lovers that come through as enemies. You know, for some people it could be hidden, okay, as lovers in this lifetime. You could be, you know, going through maybe even friends. It doesn't necessarily have to be lovers, but relationships of some sort, okay, that you're clearing in this particular lifetime because it's karmic, okay? You're clearing a lot of karma. I find that a lot of people who have, you know, this huge intense stellium, okay? A stellium is when you have 3 or more planets in the same sign of 12th house energy in their chart. They're basically here to clear up a whole bunch of past life stuff, okay? Is really what that is. So depending, again, where you have 12th house in your chart, you're going to basically, you know, be gifted at different things, but mainly it's the vision, okay? You're going to be highly psychic, highly intuitive. You know, you could actually work as a psychic or an intuitive. It depends on your calling, because a lot of the time, if you want to be a psychic who actually does, let's say, readings for people, and, you know, maybe you are assisting people through mediumship, I find mediumship more so 8th house energy. But, you know, if you're psychic and you're able to, you know, you want to do this, well, basically that's going to be a calling for you, okay? So not everyone with 12th house in their chart is going to want to be, let's say, a psychic that assists people actually using their psychic gifts and abilities, because the psychic gifts are gifts that you can use in different ways, shapes, and forms. Like I said, it's vision for some people, clairvoyance, right? So you're able to see things. You know, let's say people like, for example, Beethoven. I think it was Beethoven. He couldn't see, right? But he could play the piano really well. So that would be very, I'm sure if we looked at his chart, we would find a lot of 12th house, okay? Because he's able to get the download, okay? Let's say he's hearing the music in his head, and then he's able to transpose that onto the piano. A lot of musicians have this, okay? A lot of musicians have a lot of 12th house energy. I've noticed in a lot of musicians' charts, they're going to have the sun conjunct the ascendant, okay? But it's a 12th house sun conjunct the ascendant. So basically when you have sun conjunct the ascendant, it depends where the conjunction is. If it's in the 12th house conjunct the ascendant, you basically incarnate here with a very particular, you know, spiritual mission, okay? So this is what the 12th house is also about. It's all about spirituality. It's all about, again, it's the final house. It's the unseen realm. It's all about spiritual, you know, the other side. So if you have this conjunction, you're here on a particular spiritual mission. You basically incarnated here to deliver some sort of message. You could be a spiritual teacher of some sorts. Not necessarily, again, doesn't have to be teaching. A spiritual teacher could be, you know, a musician, for example, right? You are channeling through vibration of sound. Sound is the highest vibration. It could be through creating movies, right? If you have a lot of, let's say, maybe Neptune in the 12th house, you're going to be someone who is interested in film, in creating movies, in photography, all these sorts of things. So that's really what the 12th house is all about. It is really, really all about, again, taking information, channeling it through, and transposing it in one way, shape, or form. Let's say you have Mercury in the 12th house. Again, this is you really incarnated with a specific spiritual mission, okay? Something that you're going to be communicating, because Mercury is all about communication. Also, something else with the 12th house that I forgot to mention is that they are the romantics, okay? They're the romantics of the zodiac. And what tends to happen, what I've noticed with, you know, this Piscean energy is that they're almost always stuck in an energy of disappointment, because in their minds, you know, they tend to really romanticize everything. Okay, they might romanticize their partner, they might romanticize their career, they might romanticize a dream, because they have this vision. They're very good at manifesting things, and they're very good at bringing these things into reality. But what tends to happen is when they get that thing, it's not exactly how they envisioned it in their mind, okay? So they're constantly stuck in this paradox, okay? The 12th house, congestion, stellium, whatever way you want to look at it, of energy, is always going to be stuck in a paradox of romanticizing something and it not really turning out to be exactly what, you know, they had wanted, right? Or what they had envisioned, or how they felt when they were envisioning it. Because, you know, when we bring through the dimensions in this, you know, when you're out of your body and when you're in your imagination and when you're picturing anything, you're in the astral plane, right? Let's say we call this the 5th dimension, 5D, right? It's always super high vibrational. It's in this vibration of love. It's in this vibration of bliss. And on the earth plane, you know, up until now, right, we're going to be moving into higher higher vibrations, but up until now, it's been very dense, okay? So anything that they bring through is not always going to be exactly how they envision in their minds. So I notice with a lot of this Piscean energy, they tend to be in this cycle of disappointment, which then in turn might lead into addiction as a form of escapism. So if you have a lot of 12th house energy in your chart, it's really important not to fall into escapisms also, okay? Because this is how a lot of, you know, 12th house people tend to fall into just addiction, okay? It could even be a sex addiction, whatever it is, right? They tend to fall into addictions as a way to basically try to get into that escape, right? Into that escape mode out of their bodies, into that place where they feel good. This is why they thrive on their own. They're very intelligent people. They're highly advanced. I find them spiritually. They're, you know, a lot of the time they struggle on this earth plane. They might struggle with depression, anxiety. They're probably going to be really good at reading people, okay? They probably feel like they don't really fit in with others. That's that isolating energy with the 12th house, okay? Because again, a lot of them, depending on the placement, okay, where it is in your charts, but a lot of them incarnated with a very specific spiritual mission, and it's like, you know, they came here to do that, okay? So their lives kind of do become more so, you know, I don't want to say about other people, because, you know, ultimately it always is about the soul and the soul's growth, but it is that, okay? It really is that. And also, you know, sometimes they're going to, there's almost like this karmic, I don't want to say balance, but that's the word that's coming through. There's almost like this karmic agreement, let's say that, okay? There's almost this karmic agreement that the soul incarnated to energetically help, okay, a large amount of people, okay? Again, 12th house, okay? A large amount of people in one way, shape, or form, whether that's just you walking on the streets, you know, in a crowded place and you're walking by them and it's just your vibration that's helping these people. The karmic duty, the karmic responsibility, that's the word that I was looking for. Okay, so that's kind of what the soul incarnates here onto this earth plane with, okay? It's really challenging, okay? It's really challenging for a lot of the 12th house energy. I do find, like I said, a lot of them end up in an energy of disappointments. They might fall into shadows if they're not aware, but this is why I make these videos, so you can be aware of these things. Other things they might also tend to fall into is enmeshments, okay? So it's really important for the 12th house to basically be aware of the fact that they are different, that they did come here with a specific spiritual mission. Whatever you feel called to do, let's say, again, you feel called maybe to do music or painting, whatever it is, it's basically here to be of some form of service, okay? Because it's in opposition to the 6th house, and the 6th house is Virgo, and Virgo is all about being of service, okay? But don't make this your main focus. That could be a shadow trait. Let's say your main focus is, oh, how can I help people? How can I be of service? Well, again, you're falling into the shadow. You really, really have to hone in. And I find the 12th house has to really clear a lot of things to basically come to the core of the person, of who they are, especially in this day and age that we're living in, because there's a lot of information always. There is a lot of constant distractions, constant bombardment of information, that it's very hard, let's say, for a lot of 12th house people to see what it is that they want to do, because they're constantly bombarded and they really absorb, okay? They really absorb energy. And what's interesting that's coming through psychically is that they basically are transmuting energy. So they absorb it, and I'm seeing it through their solar plexus, okay? So they basically absorb this energy into their bodies, and a lot of them might be storing it in their solar plexus, which then confuses them with their own personal identity, okay? So if you have a lot of 12th house energy in your chart, it's really important to figure out who you are, okay? Who you are as a person, what it is that you like to do. Again, that isolation energy, the 12th house is going to thrive in isolation, but then also you don't want to be constantly isolated, right? Because the paradox here is they thrive in isolation, but they're actually thrown in into the earth plane basically to assist spiritually, okay? Again, it's really higher dimensional, okay? This is all people with 12th house energy in their charts. They're here with a higher purpose, you know, so there might be things that you've gone through in your life. Let's say you're watching this and you've experienced a lot of things. A lot of those things are probably encompassed into your purpose, okay? This is just the 12th house, the nature of the 12th house. Again, thriving in isolation, writer, I forgot to mention writer, there's a lot of writers who have a lot of 12th house energy. Again, anything to do with the imagination and expressing it creatively. And let's say you have a lot of 12th house energy, maybe you're not interested in actually writing. Well, maybe journaling could be really good for you as an outlet, okay? And with the 12th house, you know, there comes a period of time, I find, in all 12th house people where they're going to go into an isolation energy and they're going to untangle the web, okay? Because that's really what they're meant to do. They're meant to untangle themselves from other people to develop that strong solar plexus, which is all about the identity, the ego, the self, okay? Healthy ego. And so they can kind of charge forward in terms of what their purpose is here on earth. So beautiful, beautiful house. There's so much, again, like I said, to say, so much to explore, so much to really look at, because, you know, the more that we know, the easier it is to basically clear these things so we can be, again, in that self-truth and in that alignment of really what the 12th house is all about. One more thing that I forgot to mention is if you have Venus in the 12th house, this is, again, that past life lovers coming through as enemies. So you're probably, if you have Venus in the 12th, and usually they come through as male, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, it could maybe just be masculine energy. Okay, with the Venus in the 12th. So it's a lot of karmic clearance again. Okay, so like I said, I find a lot of 12th house energy to be not only a spiritual lifetime, but a cleanup. Okay, it's a cleanup. It's a cleanup of all these past lifetimes. Okay, depending on the rest of your chart, but you're basically cleaning up a lot of clearance, a lot of things from past lives. Okay, you're clearing these things. It could even be through the family line. Okay, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of people out there currently who have a lot of 12th house energy in their charts. Okay, because it's the nature of the time that we're living in. People are doing a lot of clearing right now as well. Okay, so beautiful, beautiful sign. It's a beautiful placement once you are able to basically hone in that energy and detach yourself from external energies. That's the most important thing here, because again, it's that enmeshment that I mentioned earlier. Okay, with the 12th house, you might get, because it's a water sign, okay, they might get, you know, amalgamated, molded into their surroundings. Okay, it's very easy for them to do this, and then it throws them off their path, because they're meant to, again, really discover who they are. Because like I mentioned, when your placements shift, so a lot of the time, again, 12th house placements, probably the prospering time would be after their Saturn return. So 27, 28, 29, depending on, you know, your charts, you know, the prospering time would be, let's say, after the 30s, okay, in the 30s or whatever, right? Later in life, okay? It's not immediate, because you know how sometimes you have people's charts who, like, let's say, are very successful at a young age. Well, 12th house is going to be after their Saturn return, because of the fact, and this is just my own personal knowledge that's come through, is it's because of the fact that they're clearing. There's a lot of clearance, there's a lot of enmeshment, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of clouded energy, there's a lot of escapism that takes place, okay? Because like I said, they have a really hard time operating on the earth plane. They just want to be in the imagination. They want to be out of their bodies. That's where they thrive, okay? But the main task and lesson and thing to master in this lifetime for the 12th house is to be able to channel that information through, okay, and to be able to express it in one way, shape, or form, whether that's creatively, whether that, creatively, but which way it looks creatively, whether that's writing, music, whatever it is, right? So I'm going to wrap up the video there. I hope you guys did enjoy my video on the 12th house. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day.